Welcome to this webcast for parents of incoming students in the College of Arts and Sciences at the University of Pennsylvania. My name is Paul Snigowski, and I'm the Dean of the college, and I'm joined by three of my colleagues from the college office, which is the office that administers and advises the curriculum in college students. And I'd like my three colleagues to introduce themselves, and then we'll give you a quick reminder of some deadlines for your students.
So I'm Gary Purpura. I'm the Associate Director and Assistant Dean in the college office.
I'm Janet Ty. I'm the Dean of Freshmen, so I'm your Dean. If you're a freshman, I'm also the Dean of Transfer Students in the college, so don't feel left out if you're the parent of a transfer student. I'm also the Director of Academic Advising in the college.
And I'm Rebecca Poyero. I'm an Assistant Dean for Advising, and I will be fielding questions as they come in via the college webcast at sas.upenn.edu email. So send them, keep them coming. We've already gotten some.
So we're eager to get to your questions. Before we do, just a couple brief reminders. Your student by now, or pretty soon this week, should have had a conversation with their advisor about their plans for registering for courses and so forth. That advisor will then, after that conversation, remove the hold on registration so that the student can do advanced registration this week, if they haven't done it already, because advanced registration closes Friday night, Philadelphia time at 11:59. Now, not to worry if they didn't get to it. Registration proper will reopen on July 24th, at which time adjustments and new course requests and so forth can be made. But it would be a good idea for your student to get in there, have that advising conversation if they haven't, and do advance registration. Any other deadlines we should remind them of? Okay. For other things regarding new student orientation, move-in, and so forth, please see the college website and the new student orientation site of the university, which will have all of that information. And so I think now we'll go to our questions and answers.
Okay. This was one that came in that I think sums it up for a lot of people. The whole course selection process seems a little daunting. My student wants to explore everything and is very unsure about how to narrow it down to 4 choices for the first semester. Should he concentrate on some basics, foreign language, math, writing, take a freshman seminar, or concentrate on introductory classes in a wide variety of subjects so he can start narrowing down on a major? And does it make sense to take a class outside of the School of Arts and Sciences first semester? There's a lot in there, and I think it's on everybody's mind pretty much.
And everybody here is a pre-major advisor, so who wants to jump in?
Yeah.
So I would definitely encourage your students to explore. That's one of the real virtues of liberal arts education, is the ability to take a wide range of courses, maybe not even know what direction they're all heading into. That's okay. Your student won't have to declare a major until the end of the sophomore year, and then can even change the major after that. So there isn't a lot of pressure to kind of figure it all out in the beginning. So I think from that perspective, take advantage of the kind of freedom that you have here to just sort of explore a wide range.
But you should definitely talk to your advisor, because the advisor can help you out. So what if you decide, oh gee, I think I might want to explore being a pre-medical student, or I'm very interested in physics, which is a big, physical world science. You'd need to get certain basic courses in right away, because those fields are foundational, where you build one thing on top of the other. Plus, some students come in and they're more worried about their writing, or they're more, they're really keen on getting a foreign language done right away. Those are the kinds of things that an advisor can help talk to the student about, and so the student can make some sort of strategic decisions about, where do I want to start at Penn in this first semester.
I think what we're hearing here is that there's obviously the virtue in exploring, and then there is also the consideration of, if you do have some leanings, you might want to test those leanings out or consider certain kinds of coursework that will help get you started in that way. And so the only thing I would add to this is that in the early courses that you're taking as a student here, almost everything that you take is going to wind up fulfilling one requirement or another.
Absolutely,
Of the
yeah.
large list of things that you're going to find yourself learning about while you're here. So ease off on the anxiety. Much of what you do, it counts. Almost all of it counts toward your degree. And it's just if there are certain things you already think you want to do as a student, then your advisor can really help you try to line things up. I'm a biology professor, and I often wind up advising pre-medical students, and so there are certain kinds of advice, as Dr. Tai was saying, that I will give those students.
This question came in just as a follow-up when we were talking about that one, saying, asking, is a freshman seminar required or encouraged?
It's encouraged. They're a wonderful set of courses. The faculty love to teach them. The students really like being in them. They're small enrollment courses dedicated to a subject or a topic that the faculty person has recognized. You don't have to have a lot of background information on it. This is an interesting, puzzling, researchy type of issue, and I can help students engage in a seminar, atmosphere about this topic. So it's a good introduction also to the how you learn from seminars on the college level. So freshman seminars aren't required, but they certainly are encouraged. And I must say, this particular fall, we've got a really rich and
Yeah, there's
interesting
some good
array
ones.
of them.
Yeah. I mean, many, perhaps all of them, actually do satisfy a requirement. though.
Yes, they're all sector.
They satisfy the sectors of knowledge, one or the other of the sectors of knowledge requirements. So while they're not required, they satisfy one of your general education requirements.
And one thing to add is sometimes incoming students or their families can get confused between a freshman seminar and a critical writing seminar. The critical writing seminar is, taking a writing seminar is a requirement. Freshman seminar is another category of class that students can choose. So.
And also, I'm hearing in both these questions a kind of anxiety about I have to sort of fill these boxes in and get things done. You really do have 4 or 3.5 semesters to figure out what it is you want to major in, and one hopes that those course experiences are going to help you figure out the major. Everybody comes into the college undeclared. That's the way we want you. So let that anxiety go for the moment. As far as things like writing seminars and this requirement, that requirement, most of them get fulfilled with students actually doing it almost by accident. So again, in this first semester, you'll probably knock a few of them off without even trying, just following courses that interest you.
There's another question that came in. My daughter has special needs. She's always received accommodations in high school. What do we need to do to make sure she receives them in college? So there is, there is an office on campus, Student Disability Services, and they have a great website with a lot of information on it. Students who may have had accommodations in high school or may think that they need them now, even if they didn't, can self-identify and reach out to the SDS office via the form they have on their website. They can also, and I would recommend this as well, call up and schedule, a conversation, consultation with someone there to talk about their questions and the process, because it's not necessarily guaranteed that the accommodations would be the same. They would have to go through a process of documentation and testing on the college level, but the people at SDS could really help them think through, what that process is, and should they not be entitled to the accommodations, what resources for support exist on campus to help them regardless. So I don't know if there's anything that you would add.
Well, the thing to also recognize is that the Student Disability Service Office is one part of a larger office called the Weingarten Learning Resource Center. And every single student on campus is going to discover something about themselves as a learner over the course of their time here as an undergraduate. And they may need to have, a little help with critical reading or how to learn from a problem set, or maybe I want to go to the writing center and work on my writing tech. All of those things, that's normal. It's part of going to college. We have a wonderful center. It's free. It's confidential. and everyone should see it as a resource for them. And the fact that Student Disability Service is part of that larger kind of, it should suggest to you that learning is the real point of what we're trying to do here, not sort of parse things.
We're getting a lot of questions. Here's one that just came in. His advisor told our son that he can only take 4 classes. Does he have to be limited to 4 classes only, or can he take some other class to explore something like photography? And the answer is all incoming first-year students in the college are limited to 4.5 credit units, that half usually being a lab attached to a larger science course. And there's a reason for that. The transition to college is tough, even if you know, your student's saying, I'm fine, I can handle, you know, I can juggle 6 courses and 7 clubs, and no. It's very challenging to come into a new institution, a new way of learning, a new peer group, new faculty. So I think this decision was made on purpose in the college.
It wasn't, it was
Yeah,
absolutely
no,
made
that's
based
that
on
was
data.
rhetorical.
Absolutely.
You know, the 5th class is getting used to college. So, and photography is actually a pretty rigorous course in fine arts, and when and if the student wants to take it, that should be weighed with all the other courses that they're choosing as well.
I would just add, it's important to keep in mind that, you know, we're focusing on the fall semester here, which is understandable, but, you know, that's the first of 8 semesters. So there's a lot of time here for your student to, you know, explore and take a lot of courses. And beginning with the spring semester of the freshman year, your student will be able to enroll in 5 courses.
Right. And a follow-up that just came in is, well, you're recommending 4 classes for the first semester, but will this be enough to graduate on time without taking overloaded courses in a later semester? And I think the answer is for yes, the short answer. But for
answer.
yeah, for
The
most,
long and the short answer
right.
is yes.
For most, for the majors in the college, the minimum graduation requirement is 36 credits or 36 classes. And to do that, you could have, you know, half your semesters with 4 classes and half with 5 classes, really. So,
Right.
or is that with 34?
So
I'm trying
the
to
maximum is 36,
Yeah.
the minimum is 32. So,
32
Right,
is the
right.
smallest
so
major.
if your student is averaging 9 a year, he or she will be ready for the 36 course units.
Don't worry
by
about
then.
the math. Now,
Yeah.
we wouldn't have designed a curriculum so that the students can't
Right.
graduate.
Right.
And if you think you don't like students being stressed out in a given semester, we like it even less. So we're working to make sure students try to have balanced course loads with the other things that they're doing here on campus.
Yeah, I will just echo that by giving the sort of dean's 20,000-foot perspective on this, which is that, you know, as the parent of a student who just graduated from college myself, less is more when it comes to what you do as your coursework in college. Do less, but do it really well, and do it deeply and engage deeply. And that will also leave time for personal friendships, for stress-relieving activities, for
Sleep.
clubs, for sleep, which you cannot learn without. So the desire to sort of pile on and add more and more really should be, you know, you should try to not do that as a student.
There's a question, is it unusual for first-year students to apply for research grants over the summer?
Not unusual,
Not at all.
in fact, encouraged.
Yeah.
There actually is a mechanism for that in the summer. There's PERM is the acronym, so you'll, as you're acclimating yourself to Penn, you'll quickly learn all of the acronyms, which, you know, there's probably 1,000 of them. So this one is the Provost Undergraduate Research Mentoring.
Penn.
Penn, the Penn undergraduate.
See, we don't even
right,
know.
even I don't know. So that's a program which, you know, is even someone who's just finishing the freshman year is able to apply for.
In fact, it's designed
yeah.
for a rising sophomore, so it's for first-year students who would like to get their first taste of what it's like to do research with the faculty person. And they're administered by another wonderful partner office we have, which is the Center for Undergraduate Research and Fellowships.
Perf.
KERF, yes, that's the acronym.
Second acronym.
And KERF, we partner with them and with College Housing, and they have a sort of an educational program where they'll come into college houses, talk about how these things work, how you could apply for them. They have a wonderful website, so if you think your student is interested in doing research, they should bring it up to their pre-major advisor. They might want to go see KERF after they've landed on their feet here, and they should keep their eyes open for these programs.
Yeah, PERM applications will be available to the students in the spring of the freshman year. And I can tell you from my own experience, I have 2 students who work in my lab over in the biology department, and they started as PERM students. So I put in a project into PERM, and my project was funded by PERM. And then students wrote to me and said, I'm applying to your project. And I met some wonderful students and picked 2 of them, and they've been with me for 3 years now. So it's a very clear pathway to an association with faculty and with research, and also to that small personal experience on campus, which is so valuable.
And of course, there are other pathways into finding research opportunities. Some people
Many.
just find them by going to office hours with a professor and saying, what do you do research on? Could you tell me about it? I'm interested in it. And it can develop from there. It doesn't need to go through any program that's been set up necessarily, although that's a good one for people to keep their eyes on, but it's not limited to that.
This brings me to the secret weapon for students.
No.
I will tell you the secret weapon, and you can tell your students. The secret weapon is be interested in what your professors are teaching you. And if you are, it melts professors' hearts, and they are only too happy to talk with you at the end of class or in office hours or whatever. So be interested and go talk to them. It really pays off.
And sometimes students are shy their first year, or even their second year or third year.
That's true.
And it feels somehow different than in high school when you've got a teacher that you see every day. It feels harder to go to the office hours of someone who is teaching a 200-person lecture.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I guess part of this webcast, part of the pre-major advising structure here is to let people know they're very nice people, they're very smart, very learned, they can teach you a lot, they're demanding and rigorous, but they're also accessible. And office hours are there for a reason. And if students can be brave and get over that initial hump and go and talk to a professor, they'll find that they're able to talk to many people in life as well as in the university.
The one more pearl of wisdom from the dean there, if it is. The strong student goes for help. That's what strong students do. They talk to their friends, they talk to their professors, they go for help. They seek that community of learners and scholars who will help them strengthen their understanding and progress. That community is here. What your student should do, even if they're shy, is to have the comfort and the confidence to go and ask questions.
Another one, our son would like to study abroad. What's the process for applying, and when does this usually happen?
Well, 2 of you are study abroad advisors, so you want to be.
We could take a stab at it.
Yeah, so I work with the students in the college who are applying to go abroad to the University College London and Goldsmiths. And there's many opportunities for students to study abroad, for a semester or even for a year possibly. So the students are able to go abroad. Typically they do go abroad in the junior year by and large, but senior year is a possibility, even in some cases sophomore year. There is a process, an application process. The first thing to do, I think though, with going abroad is to sort of think about obviously where in the world, but how is the experience abroad going to sort of complement the experience on campus, right? And really to be sort of thoughtful about the goals of going abroad, what you're hoping to gain. Presumably part of the reason why you're looking to study abroad is that there might be some kind of opportunity or experience or course that you couldn't get at Penn, right? Or you couldn't have in Philadelphia on campus. So, try to be thoughtful about that. And typically that takes a little bit of time, to come to that realization of, you know, sort of the goals and you know, what you're looking for out of going abroad. So I think in part that's why we see students typically going abroad like in the junior year for the most part, because it takes a little time to kind of map out a path, you know, toward the degree, and then thinking about how abroad can sort of fit into that.
And our colleagues in the Penn Abroad office, which if you think about these advisors looking at an abroad experience and how it fits at Penn, our Penn Abroad colleagues look out into the world and help students understand what are the possibilities out there for various kinds of global experience. They have a wonderful website. I think you should go look at the Penn Abroad website. Even if you decide you don't want to do it, that you want a different kind of global experience that you might get right here on campus or some other way, that website provides you with a whole lot of insights and interesting questions to ask yourself about wanting to do it. And never hurts to start now, just looking around.
My son is coming to Penn as a student athlete. He's wondering about office hours when practice will take up several hours a day during those times. Are there alternatives, and what are your thoughts for handling this?
So I guess everyone is looking to me since I also happen to be the athletic eligibility officer for the college, so which means that I'm very aware of all of the NCAA requirements for continued participation in athletics, all the academic requirements for continued participation. I also have gotten to know a lot of the coaches and you know, have sort of fostered relationships there. So, you know, I think that the broader issue here might be one of balancing, you know, the athletics with the academics, balancing in terms of, you know, day to day, but also I think, you know, scheduling, you know, thinking about, you know, are there hours where, you know you have practices, but there's also hours where, you know, that the office hours are being held, and what happens if those overlap, you know, which is possible. So, you know, office hours is but one way for you to reach out and connect with faculty. It's by no means the only hours that faculty will ever talk to students, right? So, although you know that those are kind of protected hours where the faculty member doesn't already have scheduled appointments, you know, you could also just sort of say, hey, you know, I can't make the office hours this week or maybe, you know, for the whole semester, you know, I'd love to talk to you. Is there another time, right? So I think, again, you know, taking that initiative, you know, and I'll say that more generally for the student athletes out there or the parents of the student athletes, you might have to take the initiative a little bit more, right? You know ahead of time, you know what your practice schedule is at the start of the semester. You know when the competitions are. You know when the travel is. Get on top of it, right? Be proactive about it. You know, earlier, you know, we were talking about having an interest and you know, people will really respond to that, which is absolutely true. People also really respond to someone who's coming before the event to say, hey, I'd love to plan around this or make this happen, as opposed to after the fact, like,
Yes.
oh, you know, I missed class and
Yes.
I couldn't come last week, right?
Yes.
So I think the broader message is be proactive. And also, and which is, you're probably going to expect me to say this, and I will, you're a student athlete, right? The student is first for a reason. And everyone knows that, including the folks in athletics.
Yes.
But also remember, I think in my experience, and we've all had advisees who are athletes, we have a lot of athletes on our campus. They can be some of the most organized and you know, productive, both as athletes and as students. And it is really a question of, the big difference from high school is that you might have had somebody else in high school, your parent, your coaches, the high school itself, scheduling everything so it all worked. When you get here to the university, you, the athlete, are going to have to make an effort with your advisor, maybe with the college office, with your coaches, to get that schedule to work for you.
Right.
And that's really an important thing, just to recognize it's a different world.
Yeah. I had one of Penn's best wrestlers, he's since graduated, working in my lab, and he was incredibly straightforward about when he could and could not be there. Always. Just
No.
way in advance, and it worked out great. It worked out great.
Here's another question that came in. Are there recreational classes, such as squash or racquetball or fencing, that students can take for no credit, just for stress relief?
Lots over in Patrick, the gym. There's all kinds of classes that way. There's intramural sports that lots of students do. There's also in the college housing various house athletic and other kinds of events that go on. And I mean, they also have theater and other kinds of things where, yeah, they're just there for stress relief and for fun with your new friends.
And let's connect that back to the 4 or 4.5 course units, and then the 5 or 5.5 in the rest of your semesters, which is that if you don't jam up your schedule with too many courses and too many other commitments, you will have time for these health giving recreational activities, which you really need. And so again, try to leave time for those things.
There's one that just came in. My daughter will be looking for a work-study job position for the fall semester. When and where will the positions be posted? Are there content research academic-based positions available through the work-study program? How many hours of work-study are recommended for first-year students? So,
Who wants to jump in? All right, there's a whole website, the Student Employment Office.
Right.
Whole office, but they have a whole website of employment opportunities. That's one place to look. Once you get here on campus, you will also start talking to people in your college house or the library, et cetera, which are even more opportunities.
Talk it up.
Talk
Yeah.
talk it out, talk to people, try to figure out what kind of a job do I want? Do I want one in my first semester? Would I rather wait and use my work study money in the second semester? I mean, you can play that out. You are maximally allowed 20 hours, no more. I
Right.
think I would start below that in my experience with students when you're first starting out, because you just don't know, is my job sitting in the library punching books where I can also study while I'm doing it? Great, maybe I could take a few more hours. But is my job working in Dr. Snigowski's lab doing,
It's a slave driver.
yeah, he's a slave driver. So you've got to get here. You can look online. Some of them you can even apply. But I would get here, see the lay of the land, and figure out how your life works as
Yeah.
you get into that. If you have difficulties, that's what the college office is there for, to try to help you out to figure out how to navigate it.
Two things to say about work study in addition. We talked about research earlier. And one thing to think about in looking for a work study job is the possibility that the work study job might be in some sense connected to what you're interested in. And this is what gets to students working in my lab. I've had many students who've started as work study in my lab and who've gone on to then do junior and senior research projects for credit. Not getting paid for it anymore, but they started out as work study students because they were interested in research, and this happens over and over with students. The other thing I'll say is that I would echo Dr. Ty's comment about limited hours, despite my joke about driving students who work in my lab. I actually, for first semester students who work in my lab, I limit them to 10 hours. I tell them.
And there's a couple of offices that do
Yeah,
that.
I say I'm happy to have you working, but for your first semester, it's just going to be 10 hours. I won't allow you to work any more hours in the lab. The coursework comes first, clearly.
and if you're in 4 classes, if you're sort of estimating at least 10 hours a week per class, that's a full-time job, just the academic work. So putting 10 hours on top is a substantial, commitment of time.
Because I do want to, we keep talking about 4 classes as being a light load.
No.
So if you think about, okay, that's maybe 12 hours of class time, but if the average faculty person believes you should be spending, 3 to 5 hours outside of class doing things like writing and reading and problem sets, that's going to add up pretty fast. So it's deceptively light on time.
Well, and the other thing to think about it is that there may very well be, and I hope there are for all of our students, periods during the semester when things seem pretty easy and it's all kind of ticking along and there aren't many demands. And then there are other times when there's a real log jam of work that you have to get through as a student in a short amount of time. No matter how carefully you've planned it and scheduled it, you will encounter these times when you're, and so you need to think about the fact that those times will occur even with 4 courses a semester.
One that came in is there a recommended course schedule for students interested in attending medical school?
I'll start on that one. And then, the first answer to that is generally no. The second answer is, but in order to go to medical school, you're going to have some basic sciences, mathematics, and writing. You don't necessarily have to be a biology major or a chemistry major or a physics major to go to medical school. You have to have these basic sciences and writing.
Some of which are in the general requirement, should you worry about how that's going to work.
Right. And so you could be a history major and go to medical school.
We
In
have
fact,
many.
there are many. And philosophy major. Gary's a philosopher. So there are many things you could do to go to medical school, but if you are seriously contemplating medical school after your undergraduate years, then it's a good idea to think in your first year about tackling one or more of these basic science and mathematics requirements. So for instance, you might take intro bio in your first 2 semesters, or you might take intro chemistry in your first 2 semesters. You might think about mathematics. Writing, you have a writing requirement both for medical school and for getting your degree here, so that will go along that direction. So you do need to plan ahead a little bit so that basically the idea here is to spread your science courses out along your 4 years so that you don't have a logjam year where you have to take 3, let's say, very difficult science courses, very demanding science courses in the same semester.
Just to add to that, with the basic science courses, there are also labs attached to each one of those.
Yes,
So
right.
that's the other piece to think about is
Yeah.
when you're scheduling sciences together, if you were to say, oh, well, let me jump into biology and chemistry, you're also doing a lab for each one of those. So, typically what we would suggest in the first semester for sure, one science with a
Mhm.
lab, and
Mhm.
then, possibly you could think about multiple sciences down the road, but
Right.
Mostly
Um,
medical schools will want to see at least one semester that has more than one science, which you kind of have to do.
And you'll wind up
Right.
doing that anyway.
right, you'll probably end up doing that. But
Yeah.
it doesn't need to be the freshman year.
Yeah,
No,
I mean, I
no.
just had a conversation with an advisee earlier today who wanted to take intro chem and intro bio at the same time, and I sort of said, well, probably not. Maybe you better think about that for the reasons that Gary just gave.
And I work very closely with Career Services, and we have a whole professional and graduate school team in Career Services who work with us and the medical schools. We're very successful at Penn in getting our students into medical school, but it's
We are.
important to realize that we have been successful for many years and that those students have been coming from a broad range of majors, and I think that's due to the fact that the general requirement covers some of the pre-med things. So yes, we have quite a few biology majors or biological basis of behavior majors who go to medical school, but we also have health and societies majors, psychology majors, math majors. We have philosophers and historians and political scientists. Public health policy is really big right now. So, I mean, there's lots of ways to get there, and you need to just get yourself in here, begin the conversations with people, and you find a path that suits you.
We got a couple of questions from different people on whether there's a pass-fail option, whether students can take classes pass-fail, whether it's suggested, whether it can be used for languages. I don't think we recommend that people use the pass-fail option in their first year. It's really supposed to be there for exploring in areas that are off your beaten path, usually later on. If you take a class pass-fail, it can't count towards a general education requirement, it can't count towards a major, it can't count towards a minor. And really, in the beginning of your college experience, you should be planning the courses carefully and really doing some exploration in all those areas. So I would say it comes later mostly as an option. And, the language requirement, it's
Can't
a
do it
requirement,
with
you can't
pass-fail.
take it pass-fail.
It has
so,
to be for a grade.
Yeah, and I think typically, the students might do 1 or 2 courses pass-fail over their 4 years.
Yeah.
It's very uncommon for anyone to be doing more than that over the 4 years.
But you can.
But you
I
can,
forget,
yeah.
I think the
8.
limit is
8 is the maximum.
Yeah, yeah.
I've
And-
never seen anyone
No.
do
Right,
it.
right. I mean, the way to think about pass-fail courses is, if your student would really like to take a flyer at something that he or she is a little scared of, but just wants to try, but wants it to be without any risk, That's really ideally what pass-fail
Well,
is
there
about.
is some risk.
Yeah. Well, there's a risk of failing.
Yeah.
It's much lower than the risk of
Yes.
not getting an A.
Right.
Those are your two options.
Right, right.
There are grades in the middle that
Yeah,
might
yeah.
work. Just-
Yeah. And I mean, I think that this question gets at, what are, good ways to help students when they feel that they need to take some of the pressure off or they're having trouble, and what are the resources that we have on campus that can help people when they're struggling academically or otherwise. And there are a lot. I mean, you've already mentioned the Weingarten Learning Resource Center, which is very good for students to go for workshops or one-on-one consultations with a learning instructor about time management, about study strategies for exams, about reading if they're feeling like they're slow at reading and they need some skills to be able to take in a whole history tome a week or a philosophy tome, on writing. So that's one office. There's the tutoring center, where people can sign up for one-on-one tutors. This is not an extra cost. This is covered by tuition or financial aid dollars already. So if students are proactive about that, that can help. The tutoring center also has what's called satellite tutoring, where you can sign up on a first-come, first-served basis online for a 1-hour session with a tutor for supported courses.
That's in the library and some of
Right.
the college houses. That's why
Yeah.
it's called satellite, by the
Right,
way. It's
you
not
know.
in their office.
There's the Marks Writing Center with peer writing tutors that can help you as you're trying to organize and write an essay. There's, of course, office hours.
Right.
And there are lots of places to go if you're struggling. One of the first being, talking to your pre-major advisor who can help you strategize about, what would be the best solution to help you. I don't know if you want to add on to what I've said.
I guess I'd add one thing, which is just your student may feel, and they should feel good about having gotten into a place like Penn. They're obviously a really good student, and we're delighted to be having them come here. But it shouldn't be a surprise for them or for you that the study skills that worked so well in high school suddenly don't seem to work as well here. It's a bigger pond. The course level is higher. The sort of conceptual load in the courses is greater. And so they should expect not just to have to come here and learn new material, but they should expect to have to come here and learn all over again how to learn. And that's why all these resources are available, and that's why close contact with faculty and office hours and so forth is so important. We're all teachers here. I can tell you in my 21 years of teaching, it just happens over and over that a student who was brilliant in high school comes to talk to me in office hours, and I say, well, you're applying your high school strategy to learning this college level material. We need to get you to have a different strategy, and it works every time. But only if they expect that they're going to have to do some learning about how to learn when they get here.
And I'm sorry.
No. I was just going to say the other thing to recognize is that it's a different environment. I think that there's many students who have had different ways of balancing and managing their many interests and sleep and those kinds of things in life. And now they come here and it's on them to be able to do that. Every college house has house deans and RAs that are there to help out, or GAs to help out. But it is a question of learning to balance, to realize that if I stay up until 3 o'clock playing video games in the lounge with my friends, then that 9 o'clock class is going to be really gruesome the next day. So you gotta figure that out for yourself. Sometimes it just takes 1 or 2 times of dragging around. Sometimes it takes a little longer, but that is a part of going to college, and you have to recognize that.
And we get a couple of questions about whether parents can get grades or updates about how students are doing academically, and the answer is, we don't send those out. Students can opt to share them with you, but that is their choice. And I think that can be a little scary.
But if you're interested in the parent handbook or on the
Yeah.
parent tab on the college website, there's all kinds of information about how to have that conversation with your son or daughter about how they can waive their privacy rights and share with you. The default is that no, we will not share any academic information with anyone, and no, we will not share financial information. It will come as no surprise to you who are taking care of young people that they're more than happy to have the financial information shared with you, not so thrilled about the academic information. But it is an online, they can click yes or no how they want to do it. And however you all decide to do it, and we have many ways that families work this out, it is worth a conversation between you and your young person that you're dropping off with us in August.
But I think, even, further, not just about whether they decide to waive FERPA rights, that there won't be, something that you might have had in high school of emails every time an assignment happens or attendance or whatever. And, to cultivate that relationship with your child, your student, you'll want to ask, how are things going? And give them an opportunity to tell you without, prying in, and I'm a parent too, in that anxious way that, I can
We
get.
all are, so
Yeah.
we get this.
But, they may be able to share it with you if you're able to say, it's okay to, tell me, and I want you to reach out to someone on campus, because that is one of the skills that they have to develop as they come here, is reaching out for help, and hopefully they'll reach out and tell you, but also that they could reach out to talk to an instructor or to talk to an advisor if they needed counseling, to go to the counseling center. And that's part of, the college experience is learning to take care of yourself in many ways, and that's a very serious, complicated way, and it's important. So, let's see, I know we have more questions in here. What does it mean if it says a permit is required to sign up for a course? It has something completely different.
A permit required means that the instructor or the department has wanted to control enrollment in the course for some reason. It could be, so for instance, in some of the creative writing courses, you'll see that they all require permits. The instructors want to make sure that the students who are in the course all have a similar background in writing, that they're all in, because of the workshop nature of the course, they want students who have, kind of similar experiences in terms of writing. So in a scenario where there's a permit required, the instructor is typically the person to issue the permit, basically saying like, yes, it's fine for you to enroll in the course. The student will have to reach out to the instructor to obtain the permit. It's an electronic permit. It's not, paper permit. It's electronically in the registration system, but it's basically an access to enroll in the course.
And someone could, after interaction, decide, no, you just aren't appropriate for the course, and it may be now, is really what they're saying, just not now. And that's fine, too. Most courses are not permit controlled.
Right, most are not.
One question we got is about courses when your student's looking in advanced registration, there are some courses that say closed already. Does that mean that somehow they missed out, they were slow on the draw, they could have gotten in and they didn't? No. Courses that read closed were filled up back in the spring, probably, by students who are already here. And during this advanced registration window, it's not first come, first serve. So all the incoming students, have as much chance as any other at, depending on their, interests and the classes and the priorities on the classes, to get into the classes that they want that are open. If your student does see a class that says closed, don't put it in advanced registration because it's already closed. There's no automated waitlist function. They'll have to keep checking over the summer to see if an opening emerges. They could try writing to the instructor to see if the instructor's keeping an informal waitlist. But the answer is don't put, that's throwing away a choice in advanced registration to put in a closed course.
And remember, this is a registration system for all students, so it's not just for incoming students. So while we've tried to highlight and put the information for first-year students right up there out front, there is information about all the possible courses out there, and if they're already closed, it's probably an indication that it's not the most appropriate thing for you coming in the door anyway.
Right.
Here's one that came in. How much time should we spend on campus when we drop off our child? Should we stay through all of new student orientation? Is it okay to stay in Philadelphia for a day in case we're needed for a target run? Or, what's the way to handle
Well,
that?
as you've heard, we're all parents here, and in fact, two of us, who I will not identify, are Penn parents. But I will, as to start to the answer about this, I will tell you the story of dropping off my daughter at college, not here, somewhere else. And she had made all these friends on social media for her dorm and her incoming class. And my wife and I got all her stuff moved in, and we found ourselves sort of standing off to the side while she was happily talking away with her new friends. And at a certain point, we looked at each other and said, we're really not needed here anymore. We should just go. It's up to you how long you stay, but the transition to independence really begins as you drop them off. And ideally, you will see that your child really wants that independence and is eager to get in there and mix it up with all of his or her
And if
new
you
classmates.
You do stay, because I always wind up every year talking to a few parents who decided to stay for that extra target run or because they were worried about something. And they discover that their son or daughter is already so booked up because their schedules almost immediately after move-in get very busy with house activities, with different kinds of informational sessions. So, they're going to basically be telling you, I just don't have time. And so you can save yourself that embarrassment by just saying, so long, I'm going to go see the last, presentation in Irvine Auditorium, and then I'm going to. But if you want to stay in Philadelphia, I'm happy to give you some great suggestions. It's a terrific city, good restaurants, wonderful museums, so we can certainly keep you occupied.
Yes, the city would love you to
Besides
stay
Target,
and spend
yes.
time here.
It's a great city.
It is. There also is, you can look on the new student orientation website. There is a schedule. The official move-in day is Wednesday, August 22nd, although there are some groups that have events on the 21st, I think international students and a couple of other groups. And there's a family farewell activity scheduled in that evening at 5 p.m. So that is that Wednesday. So they are saying, let the students start to bond with each other. But there's a family weekend coming up in the fall if you're able to come, and that is October 19th through 21st, and there'll be more information online for that. Another question that came in was, we are international parents, and we have no family member in Philly. And we're wondering what happens to our child during short holidays like Thanksgiving. Are they allowed to stay? No. Will they have company and will they be safe? Yes, they're allowed to stay.
Yes, to all three
Oh my
questions.
goodness, yes.
Absolutely.
No, actually, we have ramped up these kinds of short-term holiday things for students who can stay in their college houses. There are, although the dining hall's closed, there are dining options that are now open to them. Thanksgiving particularly, many of the faculty that live in college houses and other faculty that just live around have dinners and they invite
Open their
students to
homes.
them. Thanksgiving is, for international students, is a great way to go home with their domestic new friends.
Right.
And I'll out myself because they're graduated. But one of my children actually regularly brought home people for Thanksgiving. So it was, it's fun.
Did he tell you first?
Yes,
Okay. Okay.
he did.
All right. Okay. So another one. What happens when a student gets sick? Where do they go? Where do they get medication? How do they take care of themselves? Big student health services,
Yes.
counseling centers on campus.
It's a wonderful student health service office. They're terrific practitioners of all different kinds. They have a great website. Get the information about insurance. That's all very clear. Immunizations, they are a wonderful resource. We are in the middle of Philadelphia. I'm a medical historian. I will tell you that right now. There are hospitals everywhere you look in Philadelphia. We are surrounded by them. Hopefully you won't have to use any of them, but getting medical care is not a complicated thing in the city of Philadelphia. And student health goes out of their way to make sure both the parent and the student understand what's going on here. it is, I know, a little scary, because maybe, you know, my own son, he got sick at home, he would tell his parents, and then he stopped worrying about it. We sort of took over at that point. There isn't, you're still the parent, so they will still call you when they're, you know, they don't feel well, but, you know, and house deans know how to handle these things, and they will try to help out, but student health is there, and it is an important resource for everyone to recognize.
And
But
sorry.
No, it's just, it is a hard thing, I can't quite understand this, but every year I have advisees who, you know, the whole notion of I have to stay in bed because I feel terrible is they can't quite wrap their heads around it. They need somebody to give them permission to do it or something.
Mhm, mhm.
And the other thing that Student Health Services coordinates on campus, which helps, you know, staff and faculty as well as students, is kind of public health services when it comes time for the flu vaccine, things like
Get your
that.
flu shot.
You know, that's a big campus-wide initiative. There'll be, you know, things like that. But there was something you said that I knew, well, it'll come back to me, that we have to address too. But there are a couple of questions that came in. One of them was, the volume was low when the webcast started. Can we get the names of the presenters again? And they'll be posted online, but I don't know if we want to just go down quickly.
Sure, so I'm Gary Purpura.
Janet Ty,
Paul Snigowski?
And Rebecca Poyero. So just wanted to make
and you
sure.
can find us all on the web
Right,
with email addresses.
right. This is, could you comment on classroom locations relative to the college houses? Also, what are your recommendations about class choices and where students live?
Hmm.
I think you can get anywhere on this campus within 10 minutes, so.
It's one of the beauties of the Penn campus is that it's very compact compared to many other universities, especially large state universities. But even other large urban universities are not as many of them as compact as Penn's campus. So a 1 hour class ends 10 minutes before the hour, and there's 10 minutes time if you happen to have class right after it. I've taught for many years a class that is at 1 o'clock, and I have students coming from other classes who get in there and they're in their seats by 1 from classes, you know, pretty much across campus. So it's generally not a problem.
And this sort of piggybacks on another question we get frequently in scheduling. The blocks of time seem to be right next to each other, so you could be scheduled from 10 to 11
Right,
and from
right.
11 to 12. Actually, there's a 10-minute buffer built in, so if you
Right.
have a class that says it's scheduled from 10 to 11, it's really 10 to 10:50.
Right.
So there should
It's a
be time.
50-minute hour.
Yeah,
An hour.
hour and 20 minutes for those times that seem to be an hour and a half. We got a question about the Penn Reading Project. My daughter's been looking for through TAP to check out what she needs to know and also what to do for the Penn Reading Project. When will these open? TAP, Thrive at Penn. I don't
Thrive at
think,
Penn.
does that have information about the reading project on it?
No,
No. No.
those are the modules that go through that are about living on campus and
Yeah.
about how
Mhm.
research in what,
Mhm.
right.
You want to prompt?
The Penn, oh yeah, we have a prop here. Should you want to go old school and get the book, here's what the book looks like.
I am old school.
But the New Student Orientation and the Penn Reading Project have an online electronic a version of The Bridge of San Luis Rey, and it's interactive. So you can actually converse with people, and you're assigned to a discussion group that will be part of New Student Orientation. So stay tuned and look for that information under New Student Orientation and the events around the Year of Why, because that's what the Penn Reading Project kicks off.
I think the discussions will be August 24th.
That's
That's
right.
right.
That's
Right,
part of
yeah,
NSO,
campus,
yes.
And those discussions are a wonderful introduction to the seminar format, which we were talking about with freshman seminars, except that this one is not even a course. It's just everybody with faculty and instructor leading the discussion, and, you know, in small groups. And there's nothing to be nervous about. Read the book, think about it, and you probably have your student will probably have a lot of fun in this.
But also
session.
try out this new electronic
Yeah,
version.
right.
It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
one, and we're getting close to the end here, but this is, important, well, they're all important. What if there is a situation of serious illness or something similar in the family, and we need to tell our student, we're an international family, will there be a person at the university to help out talking to the students in such a situation?
Absolutely. If you cannot think of who else to call, the college office is always there. Every one of the students in the college has a member of the college office advising staff as their college contact. They may have another faculty person who's their pre-major advisor, but those two people work as a team. So when in doubt and you have this difficult information and you'd like to make an arrangement for how to do that, certainly can start at the college office. You can also talk to the house deans in the college house where the student lives. They will probably know them well enough to be able to provide some support in that as well.
But, to go back to, finding a point of contact, looking at that college website, College of Arts and Sciences, and looking at the advising staff, you can always call that main number and say that you want to speak with someone. They can figure out who the advisor in the office is who's connected to your student. And your student should be able to look on Pen and Touch and find the pre-major advisor and find the college contact, which is one of us, the backup advisor in the college office. And they can also always come in for walk-in appointments. We have those every day from noon to 4 for quick, quick questions, but also if it's urgent and you need to see someone immediately during that time, you can come in. But there are also people available after hours in the houses, for sure.
And the college office is closely connected to all of the resources of the university that can be brought to bear in support in difficult cases. We have partner offices throughout the university, and we have working relationships with all of those offices. And so contacting us gets you in contact with everybody you would need to know.
And I think, there was one question about, how do I phrase this? The parent wrote that there's a big advantage to Penn in the extensive network of academic and professional contacts. And how can a student really connect with that network and avail themselves of all the opportunities, especially around obtaining summer internships or thinking about future career. And I think we have a great partner in the Career Services office, and there's a lot of information online. You can go to their website. But, there are people to connect with in the faculty as well who, may have ideas about career paths, about summer internships. There are ways to do a search working with Career Services. And there are networks of Penn alums that you can access via Career Services as well.
And all of this is hugely important, but one other thing I would say is that a satisfying career, a good career for your child and your student, is one that he or she has gotten to through interest. And so, they should pursue those interests when they're here, and those interests will lead them to faculty, to staff, to partner offices of the college at the university that can help them explore where I go next with turning this interest into a career.
I think going deeper is always the way, rather than going broad. And I think we're almost out of time. Is there anything that we wanted to wrap up with? We mentioned the family weekend coming in October.
Well, enjoy these last few drops of summertime, and remember those college house rooms are a lot smaller than you think they are, so pack carefully.
And should you have additional questions, the college office is always available to answer them. Thank you very much.